Never been a politician, still not really fully a politician, still say too much, answer questions directly, but what I have been is I think a pragmatist, my experience over the years. And so when I see something that doesn't work, I change it.
That is Liberal leadership candidate Mark Carney speaking to supporters in Hamilton, Ontario earlier. Conservatives are accusing him of conflicts of interest with past business dealings and want him to publicly disclose all of those dealings and previous financial interests.
A prime minister who's twice found guilty of breaking Canada's ethics laws created a path for Mark Carney to sit in the prime minister's office and to advise him, all the while he was making decisions that enriched himself and enriched his company. Transparency is required for Canadians.
So why are the Conservatives taking aim at Carney over other Liberal leadership candidates? The numbers might help explain the story. Have a look at the latest fundraising data in the Liberal leadership race. According to filings from Elections Canada, as of February 9th, Carney leads in fundraising with nearly $2 million raised, followed by Karina Gould, Frank Baylis, Chrystia Freeland, and Ruby Dawa. But sources close to the Carney and Freeland campaigns are sharing different numbers with CTV News. According to Carney's team, his campaign has surpassed $2 million in donations with more than 11,000 donors. And Freeland's campaign says she's raised nearly $600,000 from about 2,000 donors. So what do the numbers tell us about the leadership race and who could have momentum in a potential early federal election, which seems more and more likely with each passing day? Let's bring in our front bench. With me tonight, former New Brunswick Liberal Premier Brian Gallant. He's now the CEO of Space Canada. Jason Leader here in studio is a veteran of Conservative War Rooms. He's the president of Enterprise Canada. CTV News political analyst and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair is with us, as is the Toronto Star's Queen's Park Bureau Chief, Rob Benzie. Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Good to see you. Jason, I'll start with you. You've run a number of campaigns provincially and federally. What do these numbers tell you? How are they significant?
Carney's way ahead. That's what it tells me, right? We've got the Freeland team pushing back and saying, no, we actually raised more money. We raised more money than Karina Gould or Ruby Dawa or Frank Baylis. But if that's your measuring stick, I think you've got a big problem. Listen, Carney, it's not surprising that Carney's raised a couple $1 million. This guy's going to be prime minister, it looks like, in three weeks. No votes, nothing but a few thousand Liberals voting him in. So it's not surprised that people are going to want to give him money, get sort of in there with their influence and give him $1,000 or whatever they've got. So not surprising. Listen, Carney's no one's going to take a strip off Carney until he gets into a debate. That's the only hope for Freeland, for Dalla, for Baylis, and for Karina Gould. They can't get to a debate fast enough.
Yeah, and they will have to wait a few more days, Rob, right? Those debates happen toward the end, one in French, one in English next week. And then you're still only about 9 days out from the actual vote. What do you think about these numbers?
Well, Vashi, Jason's exactly right. This tells you everything you need to know in politics. The money goes to the winner, and clearly the betting is on Mr. Carney. He has the best shot against the Conservatives in an election. You talk to Liberals privately, even ones who are working on rival campaigns, they will concede that he gives them the best shot. He wasn't at the Trudeau cabinet table. He doesn't wear a lot of the taint of the almost 10 years of Trudeau government. But the Tories are ready. Jason will tell you the Tories have $5 million of ads ready to go to attack carbon tax Carney, as they call him. And rough him up before he's allowed to define himself to Canadian voters. But I think that's going to be a tricky attack line, because he has a formidable resume. He's been the central bank governor for 2 G7 countries. I don't think anyone else in the world has ever done that.
He's got money on his side, Tom, but I think Jason is right that he'll be tested during those debates that usually, as we saw last night, and we'll discuss soon, a front runner definitely gets it from all sides. Do you think that there could be any blows landed from other candidates in a scenario like the debate, for example, or is he just like cruising to a win?
I think that's a great question. And I think that the sub-question is, are any of them going to have the guts to really go after him on something? And I think that there's going to be a lot of punches held back, because what's the percentage for any Liberal candidate to go out of their way to harm the person who is going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada, because he's going to win the Liberal leadership rate? I concede the point. that it's only Liberals making this vote. And there is something wrong in our democratic process when members of a party can be the only ones to decide who our new head of government is for however long. With regard to the debates, it's interesting. On this side of the Ottawa River in Quebec, people are going to be paying a lot of attention to his French. He's given different interviews in French. His French has been good, but not uniform. I've known him for having heard him speak twice at the university level. Very intellectual, very strong command of detailed language. But is it going to flow? Is it going to be something that connects with people? I can tell you that just from talking with ordinary folks here in Quebec, they were always looking for an alternative to Trudeau, who was a spent force. They wanted to see him gone. But Poilievre wasn't connecting with Quebecers. Carney has. And is that going to hold after the debates? We'll see. There will be people attacking him on that, no question about it. I listened to the Conservative complaint before about this conflict of interest. That they were saying that months and months ago. So these are attacks that the Conservatives have been practicing. You know, they're not going to let go. They got the dough, and they're going to be going after them. But I think that overall, the Canadians are going to see a change of leadership of the Liberals. They're going to see a new Prime Minister come in and almost immediately go to a general election and let the chips fall where they may.
It better.
Yeah, let's talk about the prospect of that, because Brian, Jagmeet Singh getting a question about that today. Every potential Liberal leadership candidate, when they do availabilities with the media, get asked about that too. Carney certainly in his last few answers leaving the door wide open to going to the polls right away. Is that what you anticipate will happen?
Yeah, if you were asking me to guess, I'd say yes. Obviously, lots can happen, including confirmation that Carney's the leader. I agree with everybody's assessment, though, that it definitely seems like he's in the lead, and the latest data sort of confirms that. But debates are coming. Other things could happen, and if there's something that we've learned over the last year, a day, a few hours is an eternity in politics. So, I think if Carney does become the leader, it would make politically sense for him to go fairly soon. Rob mentioned a very good point that the Tories will be ready. As Tom mentioned, they've been thinking about it for months. If indeed Carney becomes the leader, how they would try to frame him, position him, and they've got money in the bank. So they'll kind of unleash that as soon as they can, as soon as it's probably confirmed. But if Carney goes into an election fairly soon after the leadership, if he is the winner, then certainly that limits their ability to be able to try to frame him. And then we jump into a campaign, and everybody is as talked about to some degree when it's a campaign. Because when you're not in a campaign, if you're the government, if you're the prime minister, it's absolutely normal and to be expected that more people will talk about you and more people will criticize you, and the focus of accountability will be more on you. During a campaign, it spreads a little more evenly. So all that to say, politically, it would make sense, given what's going on with the tariffs and given the trade conflict, potential tariffs. That's obviously an important consideration, maybe leaning towards calling an early election to get a mandate for whoever will win to be able to deal with the trade conflict. But that said, something could kind of sideswipe their plans and any sort of idea that they have right now of how they're going to handle it if they win the leadership.
I wanted to ask you, Jason, because just jumping off that, the Conservatives were so successful in their criticism of Justin Trudeau. He's no longer the leader, going to be the leader of the party. What unique set of challenges do they face in framing Carney that they didn't with Trudeau?
Well, number one, he's hiding, and he's not around, and he's not doing a lot of things. So he's out meeting Liberals, but he's not really doing much else. And so, he's making mistakes, by the way. Almost daily, he's making small mistakes. Those of us in this show actually see it, but regular Canadians don't see that kind of thing. So that's a challenge. I will say that will change during an election campaign. For example, when he says, regular people don't buy anything that uses steel, for example, or when he says in BC, I'm going to force pipelines through, use emergency measures, and then he goes to Quebec and says, I will never force you to accept a pipeline. Those are the kinds of things that are going to matter. Or I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to go through this ethics screen. I'm not going to table my documents. So the Conservatives have in some ways, they have to get to an election campaign as well, as soon as possible, because Carney, just by being not Trudeau, is more popular than, when you're when you're more popular than the stinky fish that used to be in your pillow, you're actually doing okay. And so Carney actually needs, the Conservatives need actually an election campaign to be able to say the mistakes that Carney's making. And by the way, politics is really hard. Brian will know that. Tom will know that. It's really hard to run an actual national election campaign. And Mark Carney, he's doing okay talking to Liberal crowds of 100, 200, 300 people. No journalists covering him. Wait till he gets to an election campaign and he makes these sort of daily mistakes. It's a lot harder than it looks.
Rob, I'll give you the last word on this. And I think like all of what Jason said makes a lot of sense. At the same time, it's hard to discount. And obviously it's happening right now. But there's new Angus Reid, new Nanos out today. Like in a matter of weeks, certainly the idea of Carney, and to be fair, largely untested, but the idea of Carney is working for the Liberals.
Yeah, I mean, Lance the Trudeau boil, and guess what? That 20-point lead becomes, well, in Nick Nanos's latest, a 7-point lead for the Tories. I mean, it seems so obvious to us. Actually, we've been talking about this for so long since since last June when that by-election here in Toronto at Toronto St. Paul's. We thought that Trudeau would be gone then, and that something like this could happen. It's now happening. Jason's exactly right, though. I think that if I'm Mr. Carney, I want to hit the gas to the pedal right away and go into an election, because I'm not sure he's ready for the prime time of scrutiny of political reporters hanging on your every word and asking you the question, the contradictions in what you're saying. I mean, Vashi hasn't even come on. Has he come on Power Play yet? I don't think he has since he's been a candidate.
One day soon, Him maybe Mr. Polyev will too. My gosh, it'll be a real Christmas morning come early for me.
If they can't take the heat, then maybe they're not ready for this kind of a job.